What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I have some news for you from the folks at D&D Beyond, and I'm not sure if it has greater overarching implications or not, but it is unfortunate news any way you look at it. And that is that going forward, D&D Beyond will not be supporting Unearthed Arcana in any form until, I guess, it's in a published source. So this article just came out a few minutes ago, and it's from Melly DM at D&D Beyond, and says, "We at D&D Beyond regret to inform you that we will no longer be supporting Unearthed Arcana content on our platform. While we loved giving users the opportunity to use new Unearthed Arcana playtest material offered by Wizards of the Coast on D&D Beyond, there are a multitude of factors that have made it difficult for us to do so in a way that presents the content the way it was intended and in a timely manner that does not divert our development processes. We loved Unearthed Arcana on the team. Don't ask me how many rabbit folk Joe Star has created, just know that it's a lot. But we know our team's resources will be best applied to developing features for content already a part of published books and to improve your experience on the platform with upgrades like our new containers feature." Now, this is something that has been seen in the past. Now, I will say for a while there, D&D Beyond was on a breakneck clip with this stuff where Unearthed Arcana might come out on a Monday, and if not by the following Monday, you would have already had Unearthed Arcana content available for you in your character in D&D Beyond. Now, I'll keep reading, but I can't say that this has anything to do with the folks who left. We do know that earlier in the year, there was sort of a mass exodus of folks from D&D Beyond. Whether this was a writing on the wall situation or just the right time, we don't know. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, none of which I can personally attest to one way or another, but they all left to move on to bigger and better things and other projects and things like that. Why at the same time? And then all of a sudden there was the no content coverage of, was it Van Richten's, I think? Or was it Tasha's? I think it was Tasha's, maybe. There was no no promo material, and then all of a sudden it just came out. But what does this mean for Unearthed Arcana still available on D&D Beyond? Active Unearthed Arcana, noted with the UA distinction in the title, will become archived 1 week from today on August 12th, 2021. If your characters currently has Unearthed Arcana on their sheet, they will not be impacted. The naming tag will simply change from UA to archive. That content will no longer be available to add to characters that don't already have the content, and if you remove the content from your character, you won't be able to add it back to them. So that's probably the biggest takeaway from this entire article, or at least one of them, is if you have a character, if you've been designing or planning to make a character that was an Unearthed Arcana race, an Unearthed Arcana subclass, something like that, go build them in D&D Beyond right now and leave them alone. Because if you keep it, once August 12th rolls around, you'll still have it. This was the same thing we saw with the funky, weird thing with Dark Tides of Bilgewater a while ago when the League of Legends crossover, where that stuff had shown up, and then it was supposed to be permanent, and then it was immediately almost taken down within the month. We still don't know the reason why that was done, but if you had characters made with those subclasses from Dark Tides of Bilgewater, you kept them if you kept the character there. So again, same thing here. I'm personally playing a Satyr Ascendant Dragon Monk, so as long as I keep my character as an Ascendant Dragon Monk, I won't lose access to that subclass. So, again, it'll eventually be published in Fizzbands, but if I want to keep playing currently, I need to keep that on my character, or a character with that available to me so I can use it later. How can I use new Unearthed Arcana on my characters to playtest new content using D&D Beyond? While we will no longer be officially supporting this content, you are welcome to use our Homebrew tools to create UA content you'd like to use yourselves. Remember that you should not publish content you're not the original author of, as doing so violates our Homebrew rules and guidelines. However, private Homebrew is automatically shared to characters inside of campaigns that you're a member of, so you can still share your efforts with your friends, players, and DM. While it's never fun to tell you all that we aren't going to be doing something, it is important for us to be straightforward with you all to set your expectations for what D&D Beyond will officially support now and in the future. What we are going to be doing is continuing to work hard on our feature systems, which will help us better support existing and new content going forward. I can't wait to be able to share more details about this going forward. Now, one, that makes me think that there's a new Unearthed Arcana coming out soon, and that's the reason why we're getting this news ahead of it is, hey, just so you know, this new Unearthed Arcana has dropped, FYI, it's not going to be supported in D&D Beyond. I can't imagine that that's a coincidence, that something is in the works either next week or this week, and it's just not going to be supported on D&D Beyond. And we know that now. This is coming out in advance of the Unearthed Arcana to warn you to not expect it in D&D Beyond. Does it have larger reaching implications than that? Maybe. I mean, it's conspiracy theory time at this point, but we saw the folks leave D&D Beyond earlier in the year. We had the weird lack of promotion on a couple of things, but that seems to have resolved. Features and things have been rolling out slower. There was that funky thing where Wizards of the Coast shadow teased to only certain folks under NDA that there might be a future Wizards of the Coast internal virtual tabletop with character management. Could that be a direct correlation of this? I wouldn't be surprised, because I have heard that in the terms, even though D&D Beyond is the name of the company, they're not owned by Wizards of the Coast, if you don't know. They're owned by Fandom. It was originally Curse, now it's Fandom. So they are licensed this license to use D&D content from Wizards of the Coast. At any point, I believe their contracts are updated yearly, which is also terrifying when your whole brand is built on one particular IP, and they only renew that license with you yearly. So at any given point when that license comes up, Wizards of the Coast can just say, nope, you don't get it back now. It's ours. We're going to use it for our own thing. Now, again, I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. And if I was Wizards of the Coast, I'd be making a ton of strides to purchase D&D Beyond, since the infrastructure is already there. Bring it in-house, and now you own it, and you can have it do whatever you want. Support Unearthed Arcana going forward, blah, 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 however you want to handle that. But there's the potential that that's not the case. There's the potential that this... Now, they said that the reason they're not supporting this is to free up resources internally, personnel, right? To be able to work on other things. Like, this containers update did just recently come out, which is the option for, like, you have a backpack on your character sheet. You can put things in the backpack. The concept would be similar to if you have a bag of holding, you could put stuff in the bag of holding. And the concept would be, if I have a bag of holding, I could eventually share that inventory to the entire group, and we all know what's in our group bag of holding, so that one person doesn't have to be the person who manages it. Great quality of life features for sure. And that's probably a big thing. Now, I know D&D Beyond is built in a very specific way, so large changes to the format and the way things work is a very big process for them. Now, I don't know if that's because it wasn't future thought when they originally designed it or not, but for example, for the longest time, and it might even still be the case, the Armor Artificer just doesn't work. Like, you get extra infusions when you're an Armor Artificer. When I tried to do it on mine, I just couldn't get access to those extra infusions. It just, the game, or the program just didn't understand how that was supposed to work. Now again, maybe that has been resolved since the last time I looked at it, but for a long while after, there was just a ton of known issues with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And again, that furthered the speculation that maybe there was reasons why it didn't get any promotion till it came out. And then, like, it turns out that it was months before most of the things got working fully in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I don't know. So, does this mean something greater? It's possible, right? It could mean that Wizards of the Coast says we're not, or rather, I guess it's probably more D&D Beyond is saying we're not going to support Unearthed Arcana because Wizards of the Coast might be pulling the license from us, and why should we do this kind of work for them for free if they're not going to keep the license with us? Or, what I think is probably more likely is D&D Beyond might shift its name at some point in the future and work in the background to function on games not just D&D. Now, again, the whole platform is built on Dungeons & Dragons, so maybe there's licensing there that they have to work their way out of, and contracts, I don't know. But if they are able to adjust the way things work to be more compartmentalized programming-wise, where you could basically take this and apply it to a Powered by the Apocalypse game or something else, D&D Beyond becomes that much more profitable and that much more useful to the general masses outside of people who play D&D. However, if Wizards of the Coast is going to make a push to buy them, they can't really do that, I guess. So I don't really know what the ultimate thing is. It just, something seems odd, right? Not as many updates as we thought we were going to get. Then all of a sudden, now they're not supporting Unearthed Arcana. A bunch of people left earlier in the year. I don't know. Maybe, who knows, right? Oh, and then the Shadow Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop character management thing that was weirdly released to only certain folks in a survey, and they were kept under NDA to not talk about it. But obviously they did, because we're talking about it here. So I don't know. But I'm curious. I'll keep an eye on it, as I usually do, and I'll keep you guys up to date if I hear any more news on this. Most importantly, like I said, if you want to play the new, I guess it would probably be the Folk of the Feywild races. It would be the Draconic options races and the Draconic options subclasses. Go make characters with those now so you can keep them. I think those are the only current Unearthed Arcana that are available. I think everything else is otherwise under sort of, I think everything else is archived at this point. I don't even think there's a direct area where I can just find all of the Unearthed Arcana content easily on D&D Beyond. So I know you can see it if you go and look at like rules and things like that, but I don't think there's like a specific socket for you to click on or a link or anything like that. So anyway, let me know what you folks think about this in the comments down below. The general consensus from reading the comments on D&D Beyond is this sucks, this is a bummer, but it's understandable. And then a lot of people just asking for clarification on things that were already clarified, like what happens to existing characters. Let's see, Huge L, that's unfortunate but understandable. Provided that whatever UA comes out is actually possible to make with a homebrewer, and considering that, yeah, this guy says, provided that whatever Unearthed Arcana comes out is actually possible to make with the homebrewer, and considering the fact that I live in there anyway, I would gladly volunteer my time to implement them if you would all be willing to make them available for everyone. So the problem with that too, I guess, to continue that thought process, is the homebrew tool in D&D Beyond is also limited. There's only so much you can do with it, and there's a lot of quirks that you learn by playing around in there and having things different work. Like, certain things don't allow you to make custom actions, but other things do. The fact that you couldn't homebrew an entire level 1 to 20 class because of the way the structure works in the system, you can't do that. Would I love to be able to do that? Would I actually pay to have access to those tools to make it available to everybody else? Yeah, I probably would. But I can't, because it's not an option. At first I was bummed, but then I'm okay with it. As a business, it made a resource decision, end of story. It's 2 pages currently as of the time of me making this. Makes total sense. Surprised you guys attempted to keep it up for as long, based on the fact that there's so many new ones. I like UA. If ditching it means you can make out other features faster. So the general consensus seems to be everybody is happy. Like, they're bummed, but they're understanding. So that's good. And you can't always say that the D&D community is understanding. So that's good to hear. That I was surprised that it wasn't a lot more rage comments, but it is what it is. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.